Hi, it's Bookish Talk, the shorter version of iBookBinding's podcast. Today we have a guest. It's Kate Holland, and bookbinder from UK. She was among the binders who were working on the five bindings for the Booker Prize last year. So we wanted to discuss this project and all the things about it, and maybe something else. Hi.
Hi, Stefan. Hi there.
And the second guy is Pavel, my co-host. He joins us from Moscow. So, hi, Pavel.
Hi, Pavel.
Hi.
I wanted to start maybe to ask you to tell a couple of words about yourself and about the beginning of this project, because you weren't the first binder who worked on this book, and you've got it at some moment and then continued to work on it. So. It may be something not so standard or usual for our listeners and viewers, because usually it's like one binder goes through the same project, and here is something different.
Yeah, no. Well, so hi everybody. I'm Kate Holland, and I'm a bookbinder from the UK. So I live near Frome down in the southwest. And I've been bookbinding for nearly 25 years now. I studied at London College of Printing and City Lit, and with Mark Cockram at Studio 5. But other than that, I've been working on my own and raising kids, family as well as, that's work as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So, but the Booker Prize last year was an interesting one. Normally we have, I think, about 4 weeks I've done it 3 times before, I think, and you normally get about 3 weeks. The book arrives to you as a paperback and you read it, or you go and buy the paperback, you read it, and then the book arrives in sheets. And so you've got the whole, it's very intense period that you've got to come up with the design, research around it, and bind it. So it's really intense, but it actually, I think it produces some really excellent work, because you're so in that zone, in that moment, producing that work. And so it's so all encompassing, and you're thinking about it in the middle of the night, and you're thinking about it first thing in the morning, and at the end you're exhausted when you hand it over to the author, but it's
don't you hate it by the moment you finish with it?
No, I'm just like, please take it away. No, it's great, because they as authors, they've been living with this text as well, so they, it's a real sort of interesting collaboration without collaborating, because the author's written the words and then you've gone away and produced something else around those words, and for them it's really fascinating to see what someone else has, their response to their text. And I think most authors are really, they love it, and they're really excited, and they're just really touched that someone's put in the time and the effort to put in all those processes, and and they're going leather and gold, this is amazing. So yeah, it's great. And you go and sit at the dinner, and it's really, black tie, and it's very glamorous. Anyway, we are now in a different world of COVID, where there are no black tie dinners. And so the last year I was back up to Derek Hood. Every year each binder has a backup just in case, but they've never been used. So last year I got a call from Derek about 2 weeks before the hand-in date saying, look, really sorry, I can't continue, I'm just not well enough. And so I was like, okay, great, I'll put aside everything else I'm doing at the moment and take it on. So I went and picked it up from him, and he'd had some ideas of the design, but they weren't still fully formed. He gave me the book, which had been gilded and covered, and so it's ready to put down the joints and the doubleurs. But all the choices had been made already for the end papers and the edges and the covering leather, and so those couldn't be changed in any way for me. So it was, I have to say, a really, really difficult project, because you're coming at something you have no, I'd had listened to the audiobook at least, So I had a concept of what the book was about and some images that I had in my mind about what I would do if it was me. But because you're coming to it with someone's already halfway through, you've got to work with what they've given you. And Derek is one of the best binders working. And so obviously it's a huge pair of shoes to step into. And do I do, his design? Do I do my design? Do I try and amalgamate the two? It was a really complicated intellectual puzzle. And I actually, in the end, I went to Derek. I said, look, Derek, well, I'll just be your hands. This is your book. You tell me what you do, what you were planning. He was still halfway through the design, but we came together to an end design working from his original drawings. But then I was using very much his techniques and his style, which is very obvious. People know if that's a Derek Hood binding because they look similar and he has similar design elements. So I felt that was the simplest thing, rather than try and copy him or emulate him. It was just to be him and tell me what to do, and I'll do it. But there was a lot of interaction and talking and chats in car parks, and it was, we got there.
That may be definitely an interesting experience to try to be a different bookbinder, different artist.
Yeah, well, that I suppose that's what I was struggling with. Is this is essentially a collaboration, but I have to put aside my own ego and say, look, I'll just be your minion, and you tell me what to do. And maybe I was just being lazy, I don't know, or maybe I was just making life easy for me. But it felt like the right thing to do.
Perhaps we could talk a bit about the book itself and how the design of the binding relates to the book.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, Stepan has the images. Let's look at the housing photos. So this is the housing estate in Glasgow called Sight Hill, which most of the book is based in this housing estate. And he looks out over Glasgow, and you have a wonderful sort of nightscape of Glasgow. But particularly this sort of texture that's going on in the facades of the buildings, and the yellow and the grey and the white. I think that's what I was picking up on and wanted to use. This is wonderful sort of architectural shapes going on in these buildings, and with this walkway. You'll see this walkway comes again later on the M papers.
When I saw these photos, I thought, well, this is something that would perfectly fit in Moscow suburbs or something like that.
Yeah.
My thoughts exactly, which is why I wanted to ask you, in the book and for you, does this look as depressing as it does to me? Or...
The book is depressing, but a lot of it's about alcoholism and poverty and the grind and misery of having no money and being beaten up by your husband, and it's just relentless misery. But within that misery there's really funny moments, and I suppose what we were looking at is that the woman, the novels, the Shuggie Bain is the son, and his mother Agnes, she is the alcoholic, and within the can of lager is her sort of golden life. This is what all this grayness parts, and everything's okay because she's basically pissed, and she so I think we were trying to make it not relentlessly grey and depressing, but to celebrate the humour that people still can find in the most impoverished of circumstances, and I suppose also to reflect the sort of golden glaze that you have after a few cans, pints, whatever.
Yeah.
Could you show the book itself?
Okay, so the colours, so the biscuit base colour, that arrived to me already on. So I have to admit, when I first saw that, I was like, this doesn't relate in color in my mind as, you know, what I would necessarily have produced for this book. So we had to work around that. But the colors that are being used on those architectural blocks, the grays and the blacks and the dark blues, they're all within those housing estate images. There's also that there's a faux shagreen in there, the sort of texturized, dimpled texture to it, and that looks very much like, to me, looks very much like the pebble texture that's on the side of the buildings. Yeah. And then the yellow and the grey and the white are within those colours on the buildings. And the black and the red is the receding taxi of the husband who moves away, and there's always his red tail light of his taxi as he drives away, again leaving the wife and children home on their own. Yellow, but I think that's basically it. The little white window at the top on the front board, that's the window which she looks out of down onto Glasgow, dreaming of a better life. And the semicircles of dots are basically the colliery. So she moves to a mining village, or she is moved by her husband to a mining village and then abandoned there. But the colliery wheels, which go around where they're mining for coal, I think those dots are representing that, but also a sort of, you know, the vision down on Glasgow and the better life, you know, the sort of basic design was Derek's design. And then we played around, we toed and froed with the colours a bit, discussed, I think. So you might have some that. So this is the front cover and gilded forage. And gilding, same.
A bit more close up.
This is a full gilded edge. Again, you might think this is a book about poverty, depression, grey, misery. Why have you put gold on it? But I think we, you know, again, she had always aspired to a better life. She always tried to look like Elizabeth Taylor. That was her movie, you know, icon that she was trying to emulate all the time. She just wanted that. She was always well dressed, well presented, despite having no money. And so I think, you know, it's nice to have that sheen of gold on there.
Overall, I'd say it has a very optimistic feel. It doesn't look like a gray, sad book. It has its own light, and also I like the rhythms on the covers. Your eye just can't stop looking at them, which reminds me of how a cityscape looks. I live on the 21st floor, so I'm very familiar with that. You look outside, and on one hand, all you see is houses and people and cars, but on the other hand, there is a certain rhythm, certain music to it, and I think it captures it perfectly. And speaking of Elizabeth Taylor, could we see the end papers, please?
Yeah, so the doubleurs are, yeah, so there she is. And there's the picture that I showed you earlier of the walkway going up to the housing estate. You can see has been behind her, onion skinned behind her. And I played with. We were looking for the tackiest image of Elizabeth Taylor that we could find, but you know, it's just fabulous. I played around with peppering it with diamante and little sequins. The woman in the book, she's always, you know, has sequin jumpers, and then actually just thought we're going to keep that's enough. Don't need any more than that. And then I don't know if you can see, there's another image. I think I sent it with so it shows the doubleur facing the end paper. Now it's not a very good photo, but there's a gilded lager can stain on the end paper. So you know when you put your wet pint down and it leaves a rim of water, there's that, but it's gilded. But I never photographed it. It's just in the corner, hiding down at the bottom. You can see that.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's witty. I like this.
It's not. I have got a better photograph, but yeah, not immediately obvious where it is.
So the whole process took you 2 weeks. Was it enough, or were you working over time?
It was pretty intense. I'm quite used to working I've had to learn to work quite fast. I think a lot of that is down to having kids as well. So you've got to squeeze anything, your working time into when they're at school or whatever. And I've had to learn to be quite fast and accurate. And also earning money, you only earn money if you can get the books out the door quickly enough.
Speaking of kids being at home, all this happened during the quarantine. So what was that like, working with them at home?
I'm trying to remember, were they at home or were they? I think so. The doors just open and close. That's my son coming in to do his homeschooling now. His lunch break is finished. There he is. I think he's got English now. So yeah, I've got my workshop at home, so I can do pretty much everything here. I have a lot of colleagues who are locked out of their binderies during the lockdown, which has obviously been a major problem. But yeah, and I'm very, very lucky to be able to work from home and have all the equipment. It's more materials. If you can't get hold of materials, you can't obviously pop to the local shop to go and get something. You've got to work with what you've got.
We talked to Todd Davis last April, I think, right when the lockdowns were starting, and he's a bookbinder from Boston, and they were closed for 2 months or something like that, and he doesn't have equipment at home. He has all of his equipment in the shop, and he still had to pay rent for all these months. He didn't have any access to his workshop, and yeah, it was a pretty depressing moment, and I guess it's an experience that many bookbinders and other artisans and craftsmen can definitely share.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask you how you balance two kind of jobs. I assume you have to do your more regular run of the mill jobs, and things like this. One-offs for competitions or for exhibitions or for clients who want something really special. How much of your work is this kind of job?
My run-of-the-mill stuff still fairly one-off commission type stuff anyway. I don't do like restoration, or I do a bit of case binding, but not a lot. I'd say 90% of my work is all design. I was going to say design bindings, but they're not design. I also do the insides of books. I help clients make up the book from scratch. So we get whether it's photographs or text, and we put it all together. So I help them. We'll do very, very limited editions, still in leather binding, still with gold tooling. And then the one-off design ones, I try and apportion my year, and I'll put it all on the wall calendar. I say, this handing needs to be for this needs to be this, and I'll work everything around it. And then inevitably something will come along like this, which, 2 weeks have suddenly got to be found from nowhere. And you just have to write a lot of begging emails to your clients saying, I'm really sorry, but this has happened, would you mind terribly? And generally they're very understanding. Most clients, I've learned as a bookbinder to now deliver books. I've always said now within a year from getting the job. I do know of people who I still have the books. In fact, that's not true. I still have some books 3 years old waiting on my bench. But, more interesting jobs come in, more expensive jobs come in, better jobs. Obviously you have a queue. Everyone has to wait, but some things are more urgent than others, and some clients are more amenable than others. And so you have to be professional, but keep them informed. But obviously, still have some wriggle room, and be prepared to do some late nights and some weekends. And the kids have to eat baked beans.
So how long is your queue? Do you know what you'll be doing through most of 2021?
Yeah, 2021's full, pretty much. I allow you know, I've got a little bit, I allow about sort of 10-15% wriggle room to, in case something like this comes in, or, you know, and sometimes you just get the most amazing call and they go, how about this? You're like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to drop everything and do it for you now. But obviously without pushing everyone else out of the way. Makes me sound like I'm a real sort of, yeah.
Sounds like a very enviable position.
It's a great position to be in. I'm very, very lucky to be in this position. I keep being told I should either put up my prices or get an assistant, and I haven't done either of those yet. So I need to, yeah. But it's as much work as I can take on my own.
How long did it take you to come to this position? When did you become really independent?
I've never really worked for anyone else. I've always worked for myself, but it's only in the last, I'd say, 5 years that I've really ramped it up and I'm working full time. Before I'd be working 2 or 3 days a week. Well, you know, with kids. I mean, it all comes down to, you know, what you can fit in and around your family. So I was a stay-at-home mum, but I was also managing to squeeze in 2 or 3 days bookbinding as well. But now I'm full time, so 5-6 days a week, and it's, I don't know. I still have some kids at home, as you can see, but they have to learn to be fairly independent quite quickly.
Are you thinking about having a bigger working place, systems maybe?
I'm thinking about it. It's a really difficult leap to go from one person to 2 people, you know, to suddenly double up. You've got to find enough regular work to keep another person occupied full time. You know, if you're going to take on someone and their salary, obviously there are apprenticeship schemes, and I do quite a lot of teaching. I like teaching people. I love getting new people in and showing them the wonders of bookbinding, and I love getting out there into the real world and telling them about bookbinding. You know, I think us bookbinders we're all quite inward looking, and the world of bookbinding is quite a closed shop, and so I'm keen to get it. You guys are doing a brilliant job, you know, telling the stories and getting it out there. But if you go to craft fairs, or you go to collect, there's no books there. There's no bookbinding there. There's jewelry and there's ceramics and there's, you know, but there's no bookbinding. Doesn't really count as a craft, you know, as a high-end craft. So it'd be really great to elevate it, you know, a bit more and get it out there, recognized as a thing.
So thanks a lot, Kate, for talking to us and giving some insights on how this booker binding was made and all the other things we discussed. I would also like to thank our viewers and listeners, and special thanks go to our patrons on Patreon, who with their money help us to cover expenses on editing these videos. So their input is really crucial to us. If you want to become a member of this crowd, please check the link below. Like, subscribe, and see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.
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 Bye.